I really want to dig in just a little bit. Let's
Mm.
start with problem solving because that excites you to be able to solve a problem. But a lot of leaders I find, Tyler, run the other way at
Mm.
times or find someone else to solve the problem. What are a couple of pieces of advice for leaders, especially leaders just starting out, on how to really embrace problem solving? What would you advise them on what road to go down?
A couple of things come to mind, I suppose. I would say, really hunting down like clarity around what's the problem you're solving. I
Mm,
think that
yeah.
oftentimes people can, I mean, I follow this all the time where, you kind of, you get overwhelmed by or inundated by topics or things happening or bad news or whatever it is within an organization. And it's oftentimes really hard to kind of sift through and navigate to figure out, hey, what is the actual problem that needs to be solved here? I think that that's helpful just to get real crystal clear on the problem because it then does help you figure out how you're going to actually solve that problem.
Hmm.
I think as you're building a team, there's another thing that kind of comes to mind. It's really helpful. Like I'm a natural problem solver, so my knee-jerk reaction for me is to solve problems. When you build a team that's also good at solving problems, you can't always solve them for them. You do have to let other people solve them. And so there is that balancing
Right.
act to
Yeah.
identify which are the ones that, need the energy from the leader and which are the ones that need more kind of the like the guide rails, like, hey, I need to set up guide rails so that other people can come in and help solve some of these problems. And it's hard to know which ones are which. I kind of I've leaned on the I don't know if you've seen the playground study, but there's one I read back in 2015 when it came out, and it basically, long story short, there was two different studies. One with a bunch of grade school kids
Oh,
came out to recess,
yes.
and they came out, the bell rings, whatever, they come out there, and then they stay real close to their supervisors and chaperone, whatever you want to call them, that are out on the recess kind of playground with them. And then the other side is the similar group of people, same kind of ages and those types of things. And they go out, bell rings, and they just run and spread out and have a ton of fun. And the difference between the two sets was one had a fence around the end and one didn't. So
Mm,
one knew where the boundary was and knew that they could go all the way up to the boundary and really enjoy the whole thing inside of there, versus the other one was like, I'm not sure how far I can go. And this is kind of scary. And there's some unknowns and I don't, there's not real clear boundaries. And so I found as a leader like that kind of mentality, I'm just a visual guy. And so that for me was very clear of, oh, I need to work really hard when it comes to these problem solving to in an organization to go, hey, I need to help really establish boundaries. Here's the area where you play. And that comes down to job titles and individual roles and vision. And I mean, so many different pieces to that. But I think from a problem solving standpoint, really, again, back to clarity of what's the problem you're solving. And then is that something that you dig into as the leader? Or if it's something that your team solves, man, how do you really create that environment and space and kind of that clear boundary system so that people can really can run and you can get, I hate saying this, but you can get as much out of them as you want as a
yes.
leader. But a
Yeah.
lot of it, you just have to create that space for them